Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Wyant, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast presented by Applied Software Great Tech Group. You're invited to join our conversation to model the future of construction innovation and the digital transformation adventure of this great industry. My guest today is Ryce Elliott. He's the president of Benning Construction Company. Ryce is responsible for corporate planning, risk analysis, contract review, and pre-construction management. Ryce has served in almost every position from the ground up, making his experience and expertise of valuable assets to clients, trade partners, and the company as a whole. Welcome to the show, Ryce.
Hey, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
So,
and
you're,
and, and, and by the way, that intro is way too grandiose. If you go ahead and take my actual role and distill it down, it can be two words: head janitor. It's one of those things where head janitor, chief problem solver. Yeah, that was a really nice intro, but little over the top.
well, it all has to roll down somewhere. How'd you get into this industry to begin with? You kind of worked your way from the ground up, but what sparked you? What brought you into construction?
It's interesting. A lot of people who come into construction come from construction families. Their uncle does it, their dad does it, their mom does it.
Mm-hmm.
It's their family business. That is not the case with me. Uh, Graduated high school, joined the Army. When I got out, went to Purdue University, and wanted to be a civil engineer. Purdue's an engineering school. And after about the first semester or so, I realized civil engineering was not really for me. And I'm not being harsh on civil engineers. They do great work, but that's not what I wanted to do. It was not, that wasn't involved in actually getting the job done. And so I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he goes, "Hey, you got to look at construction management." And so transferred over to the construction management program at Purdue. And within about half semester, I realized I had I had found my people. And so worked all the way through school, got out, came south to avoid the weather back in '94. Sorry, had to think for a sec. And when I joined on here at Benning Construction, I was in the office for a couple of weeks, and then the guy I was working with said, "All right, well, you're going to the field." So went out and spent the next year out in the field, doing everything from picking up trash to laying out anchor bolts to doing whatever the superintendent told me to, and just moved on from there.
Yeah. What was the journey like of really kind of figuring out all the different facets of the construction and the company and then really working your way up to become president?
Well, when you go ahead and look at the company at that point, it was obviously much smaller. It was 30 years ago. And the company was, interestingly enough, 40 years old at that point. And so when I joined on, I had my construction education, from Purdue, and the guy I was working with said, "Look, you've graduated from Purdue. That's great. You've got a lot of tools. You have no idea how to use them. We're going to teach you how to use those tools." So when I went to the field, went ahead and did every job the superintendent gave me: laborer, layout, digging, whatever the case may be. Then went ahead and ran a crew for a while. And said, "All right, well, you've done well enough on this. You got an idea. Here, I'm going to give you these two people to work with, and you're going to work with that team, and you're going to go ahead and get this done." Then from there, came back into the office for a bit, learned for a while, got some more field experience. Then got more office experience. Then had a superintendent who had to suddenly leave a job in the middle, not due to leaving, but he had a health issue, and we had no superintendent available. So I went out to the field and ran the rest of the job. It was a 45,000 square foot grocery store and retails and so forth, and so ran the job as superintendent. Then came back into the office, went ahead and continued working through project manager. At one point, went ahead and became file clerk for a while. I worked in accounting for a while. answer the phones for a bit. We still have a receptionist. And then as time went on, started running other project managers, got promoted to assistant vice president, and then after 30 years, wound up here as president.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's a cool journey of the flexibility of the construction industry. I think it's one of the unique aspects of this industry that you can be very versatile in your opportunities and your career path. One of the things that's kind of fascinating with your story as well is the versatility between office and field, and being able to switch back and forth. There's usually a rivalry between the office and the field. What do you think that they're missing, or they should learn about the other side, to help maybe alleviate some of that tension?
Well, a lot of that has to come from a lot of misunderstanding. From the
Mm,
office side, it's the, oh, yeah, I know, superintendents have long days, but when it rains, they don't do anything. They get to leave at 3 o'clock, and that's not how it is. Yeah, when it's raining, superintendents, he's studying the drawings and having to deal with mud and so on and so forth. And so, what's interesting is we've had a couple of superintendents, young, who are earlier in their careers, come into the office and become project managers. And on both of them, it was really interesting that over the course of the first week, about 3 o'clock would roll around, and they're kind of starting to pack up. I'm like, "Where are you going?" Like, "Well, you guys at the office leave at 3 o'clock, don't you?" It's like, "No, we don't. Get back to work."
yeah.
So, a lot of it has to do with just the old walking a mile in somebody else's shoes, and so
Mm,
a lot of that goes down to, hey, people in the office, we encourage them to spend time in the field, and then people in the field, we often go ahead and bring them into the office so they kind of see how that works. And superintendents are between projects maybe for a little bit. They come into the office and they study drawings, or they help out with pre-construction, or maybe they help out with submittals and checking shop drawings, because that's something that they're really good at. They understand it a lot better than the project manager often, because they use it all the time.
mhm.
And so we really try to blur those lines quite a bit, although they're still there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's important to give the exposure between both sides. I totally agree that most of it stems down to just misunderstanding the intentions and the thoughts, and really the goals on the other side as well too. So kind of in a similar vein, how does Benning really approach the development and training of the next generation of field workers, and what's kind of the biggest challenges that you guys are looking at in trying to cultivate the next generation of workers?
The biggest challenge that we're facing right now is that there is this misconception that, oh, well, if you can't do anything else, you go do construction.
Mm,
That it's not a skilled trade. Look, people in construction, no matter what level that they work in, are some of the most creative and hardworking people you're ever going to meet. Because think about this: if you are in a factory setting and you're making a product, that area in which you work does not change. It's always X temperature, or the product's always going to be moving along, or whatever the case may be. The construction environment changes daily. It may be hot, it may be cold, it may be wet, it may be muddy.
mhm.
And not only that, but your work floor is changing because you are changing it with your efforts. And so the first hurdle we have is having to get people to understand that construction is a great career, and to actually look at it. And that's whether it be with a general contractor or with a skilled tradesperson. And so we have started working with several local high schools. Fortunately, the state has gone ahead and restarted when I was in high school, it's called industrial arts, but now it's a career pathway. And so a lot of the high schools are having the construction program be part of the curriculum. And so we're working with a number of those programs to encourage kids to hopefully give them some real world experience, but also we're figuring out how to go ahead and get those kids to want to be in construction. And one of the big things that we have to do is when we have career fairs. Now I know career fairs at a high school, but you have the career fair, you don't necessarily have to go ahead and sell to the high school student, but you really need to go ahead and get the parents of that student
Mm-hmm.
to understand where it's this person has been working with electrical and they've been working with wiring, and so they're going to go be an apprentice, and they're going to develop a set of skills that would be, but by the time they're 20, they're going to be making $70,000, making a really good wage, and getting the parents to understand that, so that when the kids are talking to their parents, going, "Hey, what do you think about this?" The parents have had some time to think, and they can give that feedback. Now, as far as Benning Construction internally, when we have students or recent graduates joining the firm in the field, we go ahead and identify who those kids are that really want to do something else. And the ones that go the extra mile, that put in the extra effort, that go ahead and do their task or do what they're asked to do with dedication and attention to detail. At that point, we go ahead and we put them on our ladder of opportunity. We go ahead and sign them up for classes. We pay for their classes, whether it's to go to class or an online class, and then we start getting them to where they're working more with the superintendent in order so that they understand what the superintendent is doing, and taking those classes, that using the knowledge from those classes in order to be able to interface better with the superintendent and grow as that next generation of constructor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that you brought up the perception gap, if you will, of the construction industry and trying to win the parents over. What do you see as the messaging that is really resonating with parents, and how do we kind of change the tide of you're exactly right that construction is looked on as the kind of the fallback plan, and it's one of my biggest pet peeves that it is, because there's so much great opportunity in construction, and I think that the people outside the industry just have a fundamental just utter misconception of what actually happens on a job site or in the construction industry, and the technology and the innovation and just the sheer opportunity that's here in this industry. So what's the message that's resonating with parents?
One of the big things that we're doing with the parents is to, one, you can go ahead and have a video of what's going on the job site and so on and so forth. But what we've really found works is to have a student around, who is maybe 19, maybe 20. And so when we go to those career fairs, have that person with us, so that they can go ahead and relate to the parents. Yes, I've been working for Benning for 2 years, or I've been in the industry for 3 years, or whatever the case may be. And here's what I've learned. And here is what is out in front of me. And here's the classes I've taken. It's very similar to when I joined the Army, and I told my dad first, and he was like, "Look, tell your mother in a crowded room. That way she won't make a big scene, but also tell her, what your plan is." Because my plan was, I joined the Army, do a little growing up, and then go to school. That's the same message that the kids are conveying is, look, I graduated high school. Yes, I'm working in construction. Yes, I'm learning. Yes, I have a path forward where I'm not going to potentially be, swinging a pickaxe all the time, or I may not always be putting pipe together. I may not always be running conduit. I may be supervising the crew that is doing that. I may move to the office. That there are so many opportunities that are out there, and having the person who is going through that right now convey that to the parents, so they can say, hey, this is a living, breathing example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you boil it down to a simple kind of career path when coming into construction, as we mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, there's really limitless options and career paths that you can go to, whether you stay in the field or you come into the office, and then it opens up in a whole other different kind of branches that spiral off. How do you communicate that clear, simple, hey, here's a potential career path for you?
We go ahead and we have it mapped out. We have a written ladder of opportunity within the firm. Well, at least we do.
Mm-hmm.
So that if somebody starts as a laborer or a high school graduate or an entry level from you know maybe they have a little bit of tech school or whatever, it's okay. If you want to, here are the steps that you will take, and it's written down. They can see it, and it's all at their pace. It's not, all right, you got to be here within 12 months or we're going to fire you. It's all right, here's the steps, here's your opportunity, here's what you can do, and here's where you can go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Let's pivot a bit and dive into some on the technical side. So, with all the technical advances that are happening in construction, how do you ensure that the next generation is not only skilled in the traditional construction methods, but also adept in modern techniques and the tech and the tools that are coming out at a very fast clip?
Well, a lot of what we're doing does involve continuing education. We're always going ahead and doing continuing education, not only for our existing employees, but especially for our new hires. It's the
Mm-hmm.
all right, when you're first starting out, you're going to learn to work with string, chalk, and spray paint. Now, that doesn't mean you're never going to stop working with string, chalk, and spray paint. But in addition to that, all right, here is your digital theodolite that you're going to use to help with layout. Here is your total station that will help with your layout. Here is how you're going to go ahead and we're going to do a demo on the auto layout droid that Hewlett Packard has out, that you plug it in and it comes out and it marks all your walls on the floor of the slab. It's going ahead and making sure that they're up to speed on the new software. Okay, all right, so can you run a schedule? Can you go ahead and run through Procore, which everybody should be able to, but we're going ahead and keeping up with that. But the other side on that then comes in, how are you going to use artificial intelligence? Do you use ChatGTP? Do you use Tongle, which is the construction AI? How do you use that? How do you integrate that? And oftentimes, a lot of those questions, we go ahead and ask those kids and say, hey, how do you want to do this? And they're going to, and they may give you a response that you're not expecting. And they may have already thought about it and thought how to go ahead and use that new tech to get where they need to go. And also keep in mind, a lot of what we're doing is libraries, grocery stores, retail. So a lot of the tech that we're using is not cutting edge like it would be if it's on a skyscraper or on a bridge or a dam or something like that. But we are keeping them up to date.
Yeah. Any advice for young individuals considering a career here in construction?
I highly encourage it. Construction is filled with wonderful people. You will never find a harder working group of people than you will in construction. And to be part of a team on a very difficult project, getting it done, turning it over, is probably one of the best feelings that you're ever going to have. And it's something that, quite frankly, is pretty hard to express. But once you've experienced it, you can't wait to do it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I agree. So I want to pivot a bit to more of the kind of project specific stuff. So I understand, Benning has a hand in several remodeling and repurposing projects. What's the company's philosophy when it comes to really breathing new life into old structures?
Are you kidding? It's one of my favorite things to do. One of the great things about being an older company, December 3rd will be our 70th anniversary. And I do know at a minimum, one shopping center, I think two, We built it originally back in the 60s, and we have either rebuilt or remodeled them 2 or 3 times.
Oh,
And
wow.
so to see when, and even if you didn't build it originally, when you go ahead and you get to this facility, whether it be a library or a retail center or a warehouse that they want to convert to self storage or a theater, and it's not been taken care of, it's outdated, and you think, wow, this is going to be a tough job, and you dig into it and you see the vision that the developer has on what they want to do, and you look at what the architect has put together, and you start working together on all the challenges that come up, because not everything is captured on the drawings. Every day is a brand new adventure. When you're opening up that wall, it's like, oh, I didn't expect that. and to then see how the building transforms, how it comes back to life, and then you see it be part of the community again, and giving back to the community and breathing new life into an area. Man, it is a great feeling. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
a little
awesome.
passionate about that. I love that.
I love seeing it. I love seeing it. So how do you balance the kind of the preservation of the historical features with the needs of modern usability, and what kind of unique challenges do maybe government and the historic building projects, what do they present as you're navigating these complexities of, as you said, you never know what you're going to find when you open up a wall. It's a whole new adventure.
Well, it's one of those things where you really need, and granted, we do this anyway. It's very important when you start a new project, especially with a renovation or a restoration project, to sit down with the local authority having jurisdiction, being the building official, the inspector, the fire marshal, everybody, and go over what you're going to do, and to have that open line of communication, so that when you open a wall up and there's supposed to be a column there or a pilaster, and come to find out that's not the case, uh, to be able to bring the architect in, bring in the authority having jurisdiction, who has to go ahead and say, yeah, that'll work, or no, that won't, and have that
Mhm.
open relationship to where you can talk through the problem and come to a solution that everybody's going to be able to live with. So it does take a certain degree of flexibility on everybody's part. And on that, we think the biggest key is communication, keeping everybody in the loop, being very forthcoming when something maybe isn't quite right, or you find something unique, going ahead and bringing the team together, getting the problem solved, and then moving it forward.
Mhm. Yeah, that relational aspect that you mentioned, I think that's a critical component that can sometimes get overlooked. How do you guys make sure that that stays a priority to have that uh, open relationship that forms trust and has that good communication feedback loop from all stakeholders involved?
And this is where I'm going to make my first old guy comment. Believe it or not, that is one of the challenges we do have with some of the younger, mayhap less experienced project managers and superintendents. When you go ahead and look at, maybe a little more experienced folks,
Mm.
we believe in conversations. We think that conversations and meetings are very, very important, because that's how you get together in our mind and solve a problem. Is, like you said, developing that trust, having that
Hmm.
conversation, going and looking at that condition with a set of drawings, saying, all right, we can do this and this, and sketching it out and getting folks to look at it and approve it. That, quite frankly, I find very, very hard to achieve over a Zoom link or over a phone call, and heaven forbid, via an email volley, which is the bane of my existence.
Yeah. So is that part of the training and development aspect of it then to really teach those, maybe more basic communication skills and relational skills on, let's have a conversation and converse instead of just doing it through text. Do you guys put some focus there to kind of help level up people?
we do put a lot of effort into that. And, part of it is I really hate to see that go sometimes because you have some of these folks, they've put such effort into that 2.5 page email.
Oh, no, it's too long. Too long. I'm not going to read
Yeah,
that.
and it's like it's so well crafted, and the verbiage is great. But you know what? With a 2 minute conversation, you could have solved the problem and not spent the 20 minutes it took to write this. And so it is a bit of a challenge when somebody gets into that type of situation where they want to go ahead and drop a text to somebody at 7 o'clock at night or write the giant email or get into a 4 or 5 email volley to go ahead and pull them aside and say, hey, next time consider looking at approaching it this way, or maybe see how that person communicates best. How did they hear what you were saying? And
Mhm.
really get them to look at it from the other person's perspective and get it to where it's asking the basic question of, okay, what problem is this action going to solve? And if it's not going to solve the problem, then maybe re-examine how you can do it so that you are solving the problem, or is it achieving the result that you want? Is what is the desired result, and how do you best achieve that? So, spending a lot of time on that and a lot of one-on-one conversations.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think putting it all in context the way you just laid out there is spot on. That makes a ton of sense. It's kind of shifting back into the remodeling conversation from environmental standpoint. What do you see as the benefits that remodeling old buildings really offers compared to new constructions? There's the such a big push for sustainability and all the eco friendliness. How does repurposing buildings fit into the broader narrative of kind of green construction going on?
You know, I'm really torn on that. On one hand, I guess it was 10, 15 years ago, I went ahead and got my lead AP accreditation before there were all the subsets and so forth. It was a giant class. The test was just mind numbing, and got it. And I remember when I was going through that class and when I was taking the test to get my accreditation, it was, man, there are some really great ideas here, but nobody's going to do all this because of the fact that it's just too expensive. Unless
Mm.
there is some overriding goal, you're not going to be able to do it. And so since then, it's been really heartening for me to see all of those. There's been a trickle down effect of all of those technologies that were birthed, so to speak, or thought up during the initial lead uh, implementation, LEDs, the white TPO roofs, how you're dealing with stormwater. And so to see those having trickled down and become mainstream and now standard practice is fantastic. And I'm really happy to see that. So having said that, from the contractor side, it's still kind of a pain sometimes, but it's now standard practice. Looking at the renovation and reuse of an existing building, what are the benefits? What aren't the benefits? Oftentimes you've got the existing parking area or the existing building, everything is existing around it. So you're minimizing your potential stormwater runoff. So you're not going to get the silt in the streams to impact fish spawning and all those keystone species that are impacted that we don't even think about half the time. You look at the amount of waste that's not generated. Now, granted, most of the steel we're using has been recycled at least 3, 4, 5 times. But to have it in place and be able to reuse it, may have to do some modification to it, but it's still there. And you're not having to tear it down, make a big mess, generate dumpsters and dumpsters and dumpsters, and then just rebuild it. That seems very, very foolish to me. And then to boot on top of it, when we're able to go ahead and work with a property owner or a client, and you can go ahead and show, look, if you built this building new, it would cost you X dollars per square foot. Now, if we're able to cut out the cost associated with the walls and maybe 50% of the slab and the steel, and you go through everything, you're now saving X percentage of your original cost. You're able to go ahead and show that not only is there an ecological benefit, but there's a huge economic benefit as well. And
Hmm.
it's going to shorten, 9 times out of 10, the construction time necessary to get the facility in operation. So then the owner is not having to have that interest carry for the loan they took out to buy the building, or if it was already existing and operational when they shut it down, now they're getting it back in operation quicker, so it's generating revenue or rent or whatever the case may be. It's to me, it is a win-win-win all the way around.
Hmm.
Again,
I
sorry,
love the.
I'm very
No,
excited.
this is good stuff. I love the logical and the fact based approach to that. Of no, this makes common sense. Let's just be reasonable and logical about this, and let's go do it. I love that. Uh, what do you see? How do you envision the future of bidding construction, and uh, how does that kind of influence your approach to projects?
The future of Benning is always changing. We started out 70 years ago building grocery stores and movie theaters, and we built a lot of other stuff along the way. 70 years later, we're still building a bunch of grocery stores. We are still doing, believe it or not, the occasional movie theater. They're starting to come back, and but also we build libraries, we build fitness facilities, do parking decks, fire stations, all those things. It's going and looking at how the community is evolving and changing, and how we fit with the community, because uh, that is the one thing that we always keep in mind, is how are we interfacing with the community? How do we work with the community to improve it, to improve the experience? Even though we're not developing the property, we're bringing something to the community that is going to be a benefit. And so
Hmm.
as we move forward, the biggest thing that we're really working on right now goes back to your earlier question on an earlier discussion topic on how are we bringing those new people into the industry. Right now, look, I'm going to retire in 10, 15 years, whatever the case may be. I'm already working on who's going to take my spot. We're working on that next generation of contractor that is coming up and doesn't even know where their future is going, and working on how to go ahead and bring them along in the legacy that is Benning Construction, to continue that on and to continue bringing benefit to the community and providing this wonderful opportunity for the 100 families that are associated with the company, and giving those families a future and the stability that they need.
It's a great vision. So part of the kind of evolving nature of things is around innovation. It's one of the kind of core
The
tenets of what we talk about on bridging the gap. What does innovation mean to you?
innovation to us, and I know you're going to think, wow, this is going to be, you're using the self-repairing concrete that's being developed over in Sweden, which actually, by the way, if you haven't researched it, it's really cool. Super expensive, but really cool. Um, Todd, I'm sorry. I love my work. I really
I
do.
love it. It's
Every
awesome.
day,
Yeah, it
you
is
know,
really cool stuff.
I get up at 4 a.m. every morning, and I am, you know, every day I love to come to work. But
That's
going
awesome.
back
I
to
get
your,
up 4 a.m., but that's because my kids are waking me up. So that's it's not as exciting.
where do you have teenagers? They don't get up until a lot later.
Perfect. Perfect.
But one of the things that we are really focusing on right now in terms of innovation is, how do we make our project teams more efficient? How do we shore up the shortcomings in our current industry, where we have crew leads on our trade partners, mechanical, electrical, framing, who maybe aren't where they need to be in skill set or time in leadership, planning? How do we go ahead and get our projects to run efficiently? How do we bring everybody together at the same time and get it so everybody can win? That is our big challenge right now, where we're really working to innovate, is taking away that you work for me. Yeah, okay, you know what? There may be a contract there, and you're right, but we don't get there alone.
Mhm.
Nobody gets there alone. And it's how do we go ahead and say, all right, we're going to get here as a team and we're going to build this together. You need some help. Great. We're going to give that to you. And getting people to get past that barrier of not asking for help, not seeing how they can help that person, and being able to move the project forward efficiently to where we get done and everybody wins. In terms of, I guess, technological innovation or anything like that, we're probably going to be a little behind the curve. Sorry, like I said, we're not building the skyscrapers. We're building the grocery stores and the libraries.
Hey, nothing to say sorry about. I think was in construction the most innovative thing that you can do, and that's sad, but it's kind of the really on the more radical side of things is exactly what you're doing as the mindset shift of crowdsourcing and getting more collaborative and having those 1% improvements that creates this huge exponential growth in the long run. But taking the time to be intentional about that collaboration
Yes.
that's huge, and that's going to lead to way more uh, innovative outcomes in the end than just trying to chase the cool new sexy
Yeah.
technological innovation.
And you have no idea how hard it is for me not to go ahead and chase that, because deep down in my little heart, yeah, I I love those new shiny toys. It's one of those things where it's like, ooh, that's neat.
Yeah,
So
but you got to get to a place where it's will be effective and make an impact on
yes,
the culture at large, and have people ready to really embrace it. If you implement it too early, then you cause more harm, frankly, than the benefit of the tech. So yeah, I love technology as much as the next guy, but I think you got to be strategic in when you implement tech, and what tech you implement when. Um, yeah, you got to be very very intentional about that. Well, how do people find out more information about Benning and connect with you?
well, always through our website, www.benningcc.com. And as far as where we're located, we are in the same place we've been the last 40 years, on Atlanta Road, just inside 285. Uh, we're not overly sexy, but darn it, we're steady.
I like it. I like it. Well, last question for you. If I could give
Yes, sir.
you all power and you could snap your fingers and innovate one thing in the construction industry, what would you pick to innovate?
Ooh, that's a good one. If I could get every single person on the job site to love the job as much as I do,
Hmm.
then that would be outstanding. And the reason I say that is this: one, it makes you a lot happier if you like your work. Two, when you like your work, you're passionate about what you're doing, then everything you're doing doesn't flow from a compliance standpoint. It flows from a cultural standpoint. It flows from where you want to be. So it's not, oh, I got to fix that scaffolding because OSHA requires it. It's no, I got to make sure that scaffold's right so that nobody gets hurt and that everybody goes home at the end of the day. It's not the, oh, I got to make sure I get that cut straight so that boss doesn't yell at me. It's like, no, I'm getting this cut straight because I have pride in my work, and this is a reflection of me.
Hmm. I love
So
that answer.
sorry that
Uh,
may not be the answer you were looking for, but it's the best I got.
no, it's a great one. It's a great one. I love it. I think your passion for sure totally shines through as well, and is very contagious. So that's a great one. If more people had even half the passion and the zeal for it, I think the industry would be a lot farther along on a whole host of fronts. So that's amazing. Yeah, great answer. And thanks for the conversation. I tried to not go down too many rabbit trails. There were so many good paths that I could pick. Really enjoyed talking with you.
Todd, thank you. And, so it's been great to be here, and have a good day.